Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and happy Sunday, January 12th of 2025. Now, as usual, I have some lovely journaling thoughts to share with you, and a lot of this week really focused on the power of our energy, our frequency. I just keep having these little beautiful nuggets of thoughts drop in during my week, and they're powerful reminders of this whole system. So the very first thing that I wrote, because I still find myself, interestingly, going into these little moments where I just think, what's the point? And we had all these horrible fires in LA. I have family that lives down there. Everyone's fine. But it's interesting to me because there are so many obvious truths that are being exposed. And from my perspective, watching people continue to think that they're just, Mother Nature's causing these events, it seems so obvious to me. And it really puts a crazy frequency on the whole planet if you think about it. So here's some thoughts that I wrote at the very beginning of this week. You have to be able to look at hard truths. When you are on a spiritual path, there will be things, hard things, really, really hard things that will happen to remind you that you are in the matrix. And I think this happens when you learn things about our systems and different people that are in the different systems, and you get this little bubble of something that you thought you could trust, something that you thought was a good source for truth, or someone, our medical system, our government especially. You learn these things, and it's very, very difficult to look at, and you start to realize why it's so easy for people to put their head in the sand, and because these things are difficult. And when you can start to sit with these hard truths and look at the world for what it is, it changes the way you can walk through the world. But believe it or not, it gets easier. It gets easier and easier and easier. So then I wrote this: I believe this only happens, or mainly happens, all these things, to or for those who are starting to see, waking up to, realizing, taking actual action on the things that they learn. To be able to look at hard things, things that rock your world, it does get easier, because I think when you're on an awakening path, you're gonna see things that go, how can that be true? Because that's so brutal. How is that true? That truth seems so difficult. So I think that this happens. Let me read that again. I believe this only happens, or rather mainly happens, to or for those who are starting to see, waking up to, realizing, and taking action on the things that they learn. There's a certain percentage of people that when they start to hear things that are true, they won't believe it. They can't believe it. It shakes them too much to their core of the things that have given them a comfort. As human beings, we want certainty, and we want things to be comfortable. Of course, we want things to be comfortable, right? So then we always ask, what's next? And are we always asking and searching? I think that if you're on an awakening path, like I've been on, I would say my whole life, but it's definitely intensified, you're always asking what's next. So then, basically, I have this habit that I'm so grateful I've had my whole adult life, of daily exercise. And for 40 years, I taught group exercise classes, and they were different classes over the years. But where I ended my career, which was I was teaching a step class once a week at a gym that I taught this class for 20 years. It was a Saturday morning. I called it my Saturday dance party step class, because this group were just people who loved the music, loved the movement, And over the years that I taught this class, I would sometimes take in my video camera and I would set it up near where the stereo was, and I would point it at me, and I would make sure that the people that were there in the class that knew they were going to be in the line of the camera, I would make sure that they were okay being on camera. And it wasn't that I was going to do anything with it. I wanted it for my own personal use. So what I've done with this, and I've probably got at this point 40 or 50 classes recorded from a lot of years. And the last few years before I stopped teaching are some of my favorite classes. And I've been doing this for a long time, but recently I've started doing one of my recorded step classes a couple times a week. And what I do is I actually do it in this room. I put it on my camera here, or on my computer, and the floors are wooden floors, and so it's really comfortable to dance around. I have a step. I move the step over in front of the TV, in front of this camera or computer, and I work out to my own step class from when I was recording them. So what really came in for me this week was this: you can literally move energy while you work out and exercise in any way. And what made me think of it, I wrote here, were my step classes: the energy, the movement, and the music. And what I started doing is I started making my movements a little bit exaggerated this week. As I was doing it, I turned the music up, I turned the volume up a little bit higher, and I just let myself move energetically, physically, and we can move energy with our physical movements. And this is not anything new. There are people who do different Tai Chi and different practices where the intent is to physically move your body so you can move energy. So it gave me some really good ideas that I wrote down a list of things that we can do to keep energy moving in a positive way. So the first thing we need to realize is that our energy is our currency. This is, to me, the most valuable commodity that we have, is our energy. So then I wrote that. I wrote this after that. Every thought, every word, and every action is a transaction in the energetic, what I like to call like the marketplace of life. Like, our energy can get us so far in this life. It's unbelievable until you try it. And I've always operated on this level, in this scale, but for the most of my life, I didn't know what I was doing. I just did it automatically. And I think that happens for many of us, especially if we're raised in a home where there's a lot of positive energy that's always in motion. We just do it because that's what we're familiar with. And I would say that's very true for me and my siblings, is we were raised in this high frequency home where there was always movement. My mom taught us to do gymnastics as little kids, just in the house, like cartwheels and walkovers and handstands, and we were always moving. And of course we went out into nature and hiking with my dad and my mom. So we were always having positive movement, physical movement. So here's what I wrote after that. Are we investing our wealth, which is high frequency, in high frequency emotions or in low frequency emotions, which would put us into an energetic debt? We would go into debt when we let ourselves dive into those low frequency emotions. So here's what I did. I have a little call to action almost on all of these. So we need to visualize ourselves as a magnet, okay? We need to ask ourselves, what am I pulling into my reality right now? What am I energetically pulling into my reality? Okay, that's the first one. Now this one is really cool. If we are in a matrix, we need to realize that we have the cheat codes. If we realize that this matrix is energetic frequencies of what we choose and how we choose to vibrate, we need to realize we have the codes to the matrix that we live in. And we might not have all the codes as we're first discovering this, but we can make this better and better and better. So here's what I wrote after that. Life's challenges remind us that this is a construct, okay? A playground for our awakening. We need to realize that, right? The glitch in our awareness is something that we can break free of. There are glitches that remind us we have the ability to break free from these lower frequencies, right? So here's the tip. Every time we consciously choose a higher vibration, like courage over fear and joy over resentment, we are rewriting the code. We're rewriting the code in the construct. And we are so powerful that we can change the code with our own frequencies. So we need to remind ourselves that we can do that. And then, of course, the physics of motion and emotion. Okay, there's physics. There's scientific research that is not new. I am not the first one to talk about this by any means. Study Greg Braden, study Dr. Bruce Lipton, study Joe Dispenza. Study. I'm sure many of you have. This is all not new stuff. So here's what I wrote after that. Movement moves energy. What I was talking about when I exercise, I can feel that movement moves energy. Whether we're walking, exercising, or simply breathing with intention. Okay, we are moving frequencies in and out of our field, right? You might not realize that, but this is another way to break the code or add to the code of higher frequencies. So here's the challenge. We need to use our body as a tool to clear stagnant energy every single day. You could even stand up and wave your arms around. Put on a 3 or 4 minute song that makes you want to move and literally move energy around. Swing your arms up and down. And it's amazing how fast you can shift your energetic frequencies. It's really, really a cool exercise. So dance, run, stretch, practice yoga, and do this with the sole intent of releasing lower frequencies. Do it with intention, right? Now this one is really good. We need to remember that the food we consume is like food for thought. What are we consuming? When we consume fast food, junk food, food that hurts our biology, we are kept stuck in lower frequencies. Okay, so here's what I wrote after that. What we consume isn't just physical, it's energetic. The energy in our food, so not just our food, but the energy we consume in food and things like social media, what we watch on the TV, all of these are frequencies that are feeding either low vibrational energies or high vibrational energies. Think about how you feel when you eat a really clean meal, a salad, a piece of organic like steak or chicken or something that was prepared with love. It makes a huge difference in the way you feel because your biology is going to be so much lighter and respond to these things. So here's an actionable tip. Eat high vibrational foods and unplug from low energy content. Okay, I talk about that almost every time I get on here and talk about these things. What we allow in is going to determine what we put out. It's always that way. We need to experiment with how it feels to nourish our energy. If you find yourself eating foods that maybe aren't good for you, let a light bulb go on. Pay attention to the frequencies that are coming out of what you nourish your body and your mind with, okay? We need to realize, here's the next one, that frequency takes us to freedom. And it might be freedom of our soul, our consciousness, whatever. But here's what I wrote after that. Our habits and our thoughts will tune us into the inner, like an inner radio station. And it can either be a station of peace or chaos. And we get to choose, right? So we need to tune in wisely. We need to be wise. So here's an action step for that. Imagine yourself as a frequency tower that's broadcasting our energy. Think about all of the 5G towers that are around. We could have a whole thing about that, right? So imagine yourself as something that's broadcasting frequencies. In fact, that actually reminds me, when I was 17, my dad released his book, From the Shepherd's Purse. He self-published it. This was before the internet, and way before the internet. And he got on a ton of talk radio stations all over the United States. And there were these big 50-watt stations that were mostly talk radio. And my dad would go on, not just promoting his book, but there would be people who would be able to call in on these talk shows and ask him questions. Well, very shortly after he started doing this, I was just rapt at what he was doing. I could not get enough of listening to my dad, watching him as he would book himself on these stations. And pretty shortly after that happened, he started getting booked. He was like, you know what, Jane, how about if you help me get booked on these stations? And it didn't matter that I was only 17 years old, because he could see that this was something that really interested me. So I started being his PR person, and I realized the power of my dad's voice as it would go out on these big stations. And I'm telling you, people, even back then, this was like 1978, 1979. This was a long time ago, like 45 years ago. And people were hungry for this knowledge about how to take care of themselves using plants and plant medicine and realizing our power and potential. But this just reminded me of, if we think about how we broadcast out our frequencies, it just reminded me of that experience that I got to have, because my dad didn't care that I was so young. All these stations that I called had no clue that I was only 17. And this really set me up to realize that no matter how young I was, no matter what it was I wanted to accomplish, there wasn't anything out there that intimidated me, because I was given this experience and this gift from my dad. So we need to ask ourselves, are we transmitting fear or are we radiating love? That's a simple one to think about, right? So then this is really cool. We need to think about our emotional state as like our guiding path, or a light or flashlight. But think about this, GPS. I remember I would take down notes, turn left at this gas station, turn right when you come to the stop sign. I'd pull over to a gas station if I got lost. This was how we used to always find directions. But now all we have to do is just open up MapQuest or Google Maps, and we can, get ourselves anywhere just because our phone is directing us there. So we need to look at the emotional scale as like a GPS. Okay, so here's what I mean by that. If we use the Hawkins scale of consciousness, from 0 to 1,000 and 500 being pure love, we need to look at this as a tool. We need to recognize that we are either in apathy, anger, pride, or fear. And we need to aim for those higher shifts in consciousness, which is like courage, joy, and enlightenment. Even just the frequency of love is awesome. Okay, and then here's a practical way to apply this. We need to reflect on one recurring emotion. For me, there's a little bit of uncertainty, as this situation I've been dealing with for a year is not wrapped up yet. There's anxiety that drops into my awareness if I spend any type of time too much thinking about it. It's a fear of the unknown. It's an anxiety of what's going to happen. And so this is a recurring negative emotion for me, okay? And then we need to ask ourselves, what is a small actionable step that we can take to shift this into something higher? For me, this is what I've started doing. I remind myself that it does not change anything if I worry about it. I've done everything I can to make the situation be of the highest good for everyone involved. I've done everything that I can, and the outcome is going to be the outcome, no matter what I think about it. So this is a recurring emotion that's been actually I've let hurt me for a year, more than a year now. And because it's not wrapped up, it's caused me a lot of anxiety. But when I realize, okay, you don't have to go there, then I can pretty quickly bring myself back. Okay, so this one I'm going to go over super quick. We need to create sacred habits. We need to create habits that are sacred to us. Things like everyday moments. And here's what I wrote. We need to infuse the intentions into everyday things like eating, walking, and even cleaning. When we do things that organize our space, when we do the daily movement things, if we're a walker, if we are all eaters because we need to be alive, we need to put a different intention, and we need to consider these sacred rituals or habits. These are sacred things because they shift our energy, right? We need to realize that truth is a vibration. I love this one. So truth resonates at a higher frequency. When you step into authenticity and we step out of the matrix, we can step into our own power. Because I think that we can energetically step out of this construct in moments when we put a definite intention on that. So here's a really great quote I found about that. The truth will set you free, but first it will shake your foundation. True, right? We need to realize that our energy is contagious. Just like when we're around someone negative, if they have negative energy, it's contagious to us too. So if that happens, we need to find our way to get out of that negative energy, even if it's someone that we love, someone we're close to, someone we have to work with. We need to find a way to protect our energy, put up boundaries. We need to realize that our inner world creates our outer world, right? I love that. Okay, and then just a couple more. So we need to play the game, and I love this one, but we need to not forget that it's a game. We do have to play this game because we're here. We're here in physical form. We're spiritual growing, spiritually awakening. We're raising our frequency. We might have different ideas on what happens after we die, but the goal is to become as spiritually enlightened and learn as much as we can, so that we can, from my perspective, I want to escape this matrix. I don't want to come back. I don't want to keep coming back. That's my goal. Still have a lot to learn. I still have a lot to practice, but that's the whole point, right? So we need to play the game, but don't forget it's a game. And here's what I wrote after that. Don't take life too seriously, right? This construct will lose its grip on us when we bring joy and playfulness into the equation, right? I love that. So I would suggest, here's what I wrote. Laugh at something that would once have frustrated you and watch how it shifts your energy. Okay, so I'm actually going to end on that. But here's some thoughts I wrote to kind of tie this little message up. And this is perfect, okay, because last week was super long. So this is what I wrote. And this is how we can take our frequency and rise above the matrix and use frequency and energies as our currency. Like, look at this as gold. You know, you're not going to throw gold out the window. You're not going to throw gold into your backyard or into the garbage. Look at your frequency as your currency. This is so valuable. This is more valuable than anything you have in this physical world. So much more valuable. You have no idea. So here's what I wrote to tie this up. Everything in life is energy. Our thoughts, our actions, our habits, and our emotions all shape our vibration. And ultimately, those vibrations will shape our reality, our life. Okay? They shape how our life looks, how it happens, how much abundance we even have in our life. All of that shapes it. It's truly magical when you understand the way that it works. You hold the power to shift your frequency at any moment. By choosing courage over fear, gratitude over resentment, and truth over illusion. So you have to go back to the very beginning when I talked about learning hard truths. You know, choose truth over illusion, right? You rise above the constructs of this world. Life will challenge you. It's designed to. It's designed this way. It's designed to challenge us. But these challenges are not roadblocks, okay? They're not roadblocks. They're reminders of our strength, our ability to grow, and our power to transcend. That's what they are. The roadblocks are only roadblocks until we blast through them, climb over them, walk around them. It's not like, you see a roadblock and you go, okay, well, I'm just going to keep going backward then. I'm just going to turn around. I'm going to go back where I came from. Some people do that, interestingly, right? So we are not stuck. We are the creator. We can create what we decide to do with the roadblocks, right? We can move energy with intention. We can transform our inner world, and we can literally rewrite the code of our life, rewriting the code while we're in this construct. And when you start practicing this, even on a small level, with some of these thoughts I talked about today, you'd be surprised at how fast you can start moving energy. And where I would suggest you start this is with movement, physical movement, because this is the easiest way to start moving energy. It's like you can't see what you're moving, but you can feel it. You'll be able to feel it, and you'll be able to feel it super fast. And if you're a person who's been even slightly athletic, or maybe you've been a walker, maybe you've done any type of movement and exercise, you understand exactly what I'm talking about. So if you're a person who maybe you don't have a lot of experience with physical exercise, it's just not been something that your life path has taken you on, do minimal movement with even just your arms or legs. Like sit in a chair. If you're in a wheelchair, move your arms around. Get up and make big movements with your arms. Move your head around. Move. To me, this is the easiest way to start going, oh, I have the power to change my frequency. And this is just an energetic, physical movement. Okay? So remember that we are like a lighthouse in a storm. I think that's such a really beautiful way to look at it. We can literally be that. We are the keeper of our own frequency. We are the architect of our own awakening. Don't count on that guru. Don't count on that person. Now learn from them, get different tips from them, but we're the one. We are the architect. We're the one who gets to control our own destiny and our own frequency. Us. We need to choose wisely. We need to act boldly, and we need to raise ourselves higher. Go higher. Wherever you are, go higher. The matrix does not have to control you. You control your own energy. That's it. So that is where I'm going to leave it today, you beautiful souls. I am grateful for you tuning in. I think this is a really fun thought path, no matter what it is that you're going through, because it's kind of like when you go through something really, really tough that you never thought you would have to go through. It gives you a different perspective on other people and what they go through. At least it helps you relate, because this is a very dense planet. And here's what I would also say: be so kind to yourself. Forgive yourself quickly for things that maybe you think are mistakes. And remember that you are a divine spark of God, of pure consciousness. You forgive yourself for things that you maybe need to forgive yourself for, and then move on. Don't get stuck in, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. You are 100% worthy of everything that you want or desire. So I hope you have a beautiful third week, second full week in January of 2025. It's an amazing time to be alive and to be aware, because there are crazy kind of dark things that are happening in the world. And I think if we focus on our own frequency, and every single person that can raise their frequency, it affects, I can't remember the exact number, I need to look this up, but I want to say one person can affect 100,000 people. It might not be that many, but I know that when you raise your frequency, you affect a lot more people. So it's not going to take everyone waking up and raising their frequency to change things. I think that change is already here and change is already happening. Change has to happen. Human beings we're tired. We're tired of the inhumane things that happen. we have the power to make changes. Anyway, I hope you have a beautiful week. And I'd love to know what you do to change your frequency, especially maybe in the area of movement. What have you found that really changes the game for you when it comes to exercise and movement? Maybe you don't realize that that's what you were doing the whole time. You just know that you feel better when you get out and you climb a mountain, or you go on the golf course, or you do yoga, or you do, maybe you don't realize that that's what you're doing. And you're not only feeling better because you're moving your physical body, but you feel better because you're moving your energetic frequencies, so that you can clear out those old stagnant energies. I'd love to hear what it is that you do. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you have an absolutely beautiful week, and we will see you next time.